Alright, y'all, welcome to the Advanced Technical Analysis course. And I'd like to start off by saying congratulations on taking your trading and your technical analysis abilities to the next level. And I'm very, very excited and honored to be going over this information. So, in this course, we are going to be going over how to use Exocharts primarily. There are going to be other things involved with this course, but we're primarily going to be focusing on using the software Exocharts. Now let me start off by saying this. Exocharts is one of many platforms that you can use to get this same data. There are free tools that you can use to get this same data, such as coinalyze.net. There are other paid platforms such as Addis, but Exocharts is one of the most popular, and so we are going to be focusing primarily on that platform. Now, if you have not completed my first course, or if you don't have a basic understanding of technical analysis, I'm talking about support, resistance, volume, moving averages, divergences, basic indicators, make sure you fully understand the basics of TA before you dive into this course, because if you start with this, you will be confused. So let's quickly go over what we're actually going to be focusing on in this course. We're going to be focusing on footprint charts. Okay? A footprint chart, for somebody who may not know, I will quickly show you what a footprint chart is. So if we go into our Exocharts platform and we put on a footprint chart right here, we can see, you've probably seen this before if you've been around the cryptocurrency trading or Forex trading world. A footprint chart is basically going to show us lots of data within the price, within the candles, where we can see the exact number of buys, the exact number of sells, and a whole bunch of other information. We're going to be going over delta. We're going to be going over CVD, cumulative volume delta. We're going to be going over open interest, net longs, net shorts. We're going to be talking about market profile charts, naked point of controls, and we're going to be going into TPO as well, time price opportunity. So we're going to expound greatly on each one of these topics and teach you how you can incorporate the data that you will be able to get from these charts into your trading, and hopefully at this point you already have a strategy that is working for you. This is simply going to enhance and or build upon what you already know. So let's talk about some of the benefits of using Exocharts or a similar platform. First of all, using a platform like this will give you more data that allows you to make more informed decisions when you're entering or exiting a trade. So for example, right here we can see that we have so much data that we could look at, right? We look at some of these different charts here, we see there's a lot of data that we can look at, and this data will help inform us and help us to make more informed decisions when we are either longing, shorting, taking profits, or even setting our stop losses. Another benefit to using a platform like Exocharts is that you have more confluence with your existing technical analysis. Okay, one of the main things that Exocharts can provide is additional levels for trading, and this can give you added confluence when you're looking for those juicy levels. So if, for example, let's say that you happen to have a golden pocket, which I did happen to have right down here, where I did take a little long from this golden pocket, we can see that we also had a naked daily point of control in that golden pocket. And the way we found that naked daily point of control is by coming here to Exocharts, and you'll learn about this later, but we can see right here where we bounced from, this white line. This was, at the time, a naked daily point of control inside of a golden pocket. So it gave added confluence to the level that we were already looking at. So that's two of the main benefits when it comes to using Exocharts. So let's talk a little bit about navigating the software, because a lot of people are turned off by the way Exocharts looks. They think it's too complicated. So my primary goal in these beginning sessions is to simplify things down for you so that it doesn't look overcomplicated. So when you first open up Exo, it is going to look like this. This is what you are going to see. And what this is simply a daily volume profile chart for the BitMEX Bitcoin trading pair on the daily chart. And we are now going to go over everything that you see here and just familiarize you with the platform. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like when you first open it up. And let's quickly go over the different aspects of it. So When you come up to the top, we're going to see a number of tools and buttons that we can click on, and we're going to be walking you through those right now. So first of all, we have the trading pair and chart type. So if we come back over here and we come up here where it says BitMEX XBT USD, this is where we can choose our trading pair and our chart type. Okay, so if you click the down arrow here at BitMEX XBT, you can see that you can select which cryptocurrency pair you would like to trade. And you can see that we are able to choose from different exchanges. It's very similar to TradingView. However, there are many fewer or much fewer. There are much fewer choices. Now, Exocharts does have a beta version of the of desktop, Exo for desktop, which has many more coin pairs. However, I have found that the desktop version right now is very buggy, and so I recommend just perhaps going with the browser version. Okay, so you can see here we have BitMEX, we have Bybit, we have OKEX, we have FTX, and we have Binance Futures. And so you are going to select whatever exchange you use. We do not have FEMEX, so if you are trading on FEMEX, what I do is I use the information from Bybit and then try to adjust my technical analysis for FEMEX. Now, hopefully in the future we will have FEMEX, but this is one of the reasons why I enjoy trading on Bybit so much. Even though I also do trade on FEMEX, Exocharts does not support FEMEX at the moment. So what I like to do is I like to go to Bybit and Bitcoin USD inverse perpetual, and that will, now we are looking at the same chart, the daily volume profile chart for Bitcoin USD. Now, next to that, you can see where it will give you a time frame. Now, this is a little bit different than what we would see on TradingView, because on TradingView, you can only select different time frames. However, with Exocharts, you'll see there's a lot of different options here. Yes, we have our 30-second chart, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 hour, etc. But you can see here that we also have these different options, such as delta or volume or ranges or even trend rev. Okay, we're going to get into these things later in the session, but just to quickly go over them, the time frame options are basically your standard time frame options. Okay, so if we come up here quickly, just to help those who might be new, a chart like this might look very confusing. We're going to go ahead and put on some normal candles that you're used to seeing. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off the volume profile. And I am just going to now show you this candle chart that you're probably very used to seeing. This is the daily candles for Bitcoin. And so if we're going to select a time frame like the daily, this is showing us daily candles, the 5-minute chart. This is now showing us 5-minute candles, just like we would see on TradingView. But the cool thing about Exocharts is you can measure each candle in a different unit of measurement. Now, usually, if you're on TradingView, candles are measured in time. You have the 5-minute time frame where one candle represents 5 minutes of price action. You have the 1 hour time frame where one candle represents 1 hour of price action. However, in Exocharts, you can use other metrics to measure a candle. For example, the 5-minute chart will print a candle every 5 minutes, but the volume 5 million chart will print a candle every time 5 million volume has been transacted on the asset you are viewing. So if we go back here to the time frame and we go to the volume 5 million chart, these candles that we are looking at right now have nothing to do with time. They have to do with volume transacted. So the candle will finish printing whenever there is 5 million units of volume transacted on the exchange. This is very helpful, and we're going to get into more why you would want to use a chart like this, especially if we're analyzing price breaking above a level or breaking below a level. If we want to determine if a breakdown or a breakout is legitimate, if there's volume behind it, and we see lots of little candles printing, and each little candle has lots of volume, then we can maybe say that this level has been claimed, and it's been holding above this level with lots of volume. Therefore, perhaps the breakout is more substantiated than a breakout where we have lots of big candles printing with not much volume behind them. So again, we're going to get more into this later. I just kind of want to familiarize you with the different types of things you can look at here on these charts. You can look at volume, you can look at delta. We're going to be getting into delta more. This is very, very important. But for now, just be aware that there are many other options here. We even have a tick chart. Okay, and this is something I want to touch on as well. What the heck is a tick chart? Okay, because when we're looking here next to the time frame, we also have this thing called tick size. Now, what is tick size? You can think of tick size as resolution. One tick equals 50 cents. And the bigger the tick, the less data you will have in that candle. Okay? The bigger the tick, the less data you will have in that candle. Now, in order to demonstrate how tick size changes the resolution, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into Exocharts, and I'm going to put on, with these candles, something called a bid-ask profile. Okay, a bid-ask profile is basically going to tell us hang on 1 second here. I need the bid-ask profile. All right, let me go back to my own template right now, because this template here is flopping and groping. Okay, this template here is flopping and groping. So I'm going to go ahead and put on a bid-ask profile on one of my own charts here. And just to simplify things, I am going to show you the color candles that you are used to on TradingView, and turn off all these other things that we will get into later. And basically, the bid-ask profile is showing us how many buys and sells took place within each price point within each candle. And we're going to get more into this later, so bear with me. But we can see that within each one of these candlesticks, there is information contained in the candlesticks. If we're looking on TradingView, we have no idea how much volume, how many buys and sells are contained in each price point of this candlestick. We have no idea. Let's say, for instance, if we draw a line right here at 44779, how many exact buys and sells took place at this level. All we know is that it's a red candle and the price is coming down. But if we come to Exocharts, we can actually know the exact number of buys and sells, and the way we do that is by putting on a bid-ask profile. And so this is telling me right here that at $43,025, there were 111,000 sells and 13, well, now up to 66,000 buys. And what the tick size will do is this will give us less or more resolution by 50-cent increments. So you can see, watch my mouse as I move down over here on the right-hand side, you can see the price, right? So right now, my mouse is on 43,000, and if I move down, you can see the price isn't really moving until I come down to 42,975. Okay, and then we don't get any more price change until all of a sudden I snap down to 42,950. The reason for that is because each tick size is going to give me 50 cents of price. So if I'm using 50 tick, okay, what that means is I'm basically changing in $25 increments, meaning each one of these data points right here is going to be showing me how many buys and sells took place within $25 increments. So if I make this tick size higher, if I make the tick size up to 100, now you can see that there's actually less data that I'm able to see on the chart because the resolution is getting lower. I'm zooming out, and now each time the price changes is by increments of $50. Okay? And so if we want to see more detail, we'd go down to, let's say, a 10 tick size. And now look at this. At the 10 tick size, we have to zoom in pretty far to see all this data, because I am looking at 43,020 and then 43,015, and you can see that each time it's showing me a new data point, we're skipping only $5. So the tick size is basically resolution, and I know I took a long time to go over that, but it's very important because people don't really understand what tick size is. So the bigger the tick size, the less data you have on the candle. Now there is not a perfect tick size. You're going to have to play around with this, and you're going to have to kind of find out what you like the best. And we're going to get into how to do that more. But you cannot use the same tick size for different time frames. For example, you can't use 20 ticks on the 4-hour time frame, but it's perfectly fine to use 20 tick on the 5-minute time frame. Because on the 4-hour time frame, if you're using 20 tick, you're going to have to zoom in so big in order to see all that data that you're not really going to get a big picture of the chart that is beneficial to see on the 4-hour time frame. So for example, if I go to the 4-hour time frame here with a 10 tick, okay, in order for me to actually see this data, I'm going to have to zoom in to the point where I can't even look at the 4-hour time frame. Like I can't even see what's happening here. But if I go down to, let's say, the 1 minute, and I'm using 10 tick, let me put it back on 10 tick. Then we can see I can still see on the 1 minute time frame perfectly fine. I can see the context of the chart, and it's going to give me higher resolution. So that is what tick size does. If you were expecting, if 2 ticks basically equals $1, and you want to use higher tick on higher time frame, lower tick on lower time frame. So we've already gone over these different types of charts. You can look at a 5-minute chart. You can look at a 5 million volume chart. Now let's take a look at these info settings where we have cluster, text, and candle. Okay, now there are different options that you can choose from in order to display various information on your chart. I'm going to go over these in much more detail in future sessions, but for now, just so that you are aware of these concepts and where to find these things, let's talk about all these options that we're going to be seeing on top of our Exocharts screen. So I'm going to come back to the default over here, and actually, yeah, let me put it back on volume profile. And I'm sorry that this looks so crappy here. In fact, I'm going to go to a different chart here. I'm going to go to a different chart here. So this is a standard order flow chart, the kind that I like to use. I know that the tick size is a little bit small here, but I use it for a very specific purpose. And so essentially, what we need to do is figure out what all these other things mean up here. So there are 3 drop downs up here, and the first one says cluster, the second one says text, and the third one says candle. If we put these on void, it will show nothing. Okay? If we put these on void, it will show nothing. And let me remove all this stuff just so that we can have a blank chart. I want to start with candle because this is what we are most used to. This is going to show the type of candle that you want to see on your chart. You're going to have a mono candle, which is simply just a gray outline of candles, the same type of candles that you're used to on TradingView. And then you have mono box, which takes off the wick. You have color candle, which I like to use, the color hollow candles, blue and purple as I like. And then you have the color box, which takes off the wick. You have the bordered candle, which is pretty nice, where the outline is white, and you can change the colors, of course, and the body is filled in. You have the flat candle, where it doesn't have a border. And then you have the open, high, close, low candle. This is your standard candle that you would see on TradingView. But the benefit of this type of candle is if, let's say, for example, you are using some kind of profile or you are using some kind of other cluster, you can see the data that Exocharts is giving you and also see a normal candle so that it doesn't trip you out, right? Some people get tripped out. Some people don't even use candles on Exocharts. But the open, high, close, low candle will kind of allow you to see the candle in the way that you would expect it to look, but you can also see this other data here. And of course, you could do like the color candle where it's actually embedded into the data. Some people will even do the color box or even the bordered candle here, where you can kind of see it. But if you're going to be using candles with the data, I recommend either using the open, high, close, low, or the embed, because the embed will put that candle within each cluster or profile that you're using. So the candles are basically what kind of candle you want to see. Okay. Now text. We are going to go over this in much more detail in the next session, but you have three here. You have volume, and let me put on some candles so that we can kind of see what's going on here. I'll actually do the color candle since I like that the best. We have volume, we have delta, we have bid ask, and we have imbalance. Now just to quickly go over what these things are, volume is literally the total amount of volume. Okay, so if we're looking at, let's say, this blue candle right here in the top of the wick of this blue candle, we had 2.2 million transactions. At this price over here at 43,475, within this blue candle, we had 1.9 million transactions. We come down to 43,425 in this blue candle, and we had 2.9 million transactions. We come down a little bit lower to the 43,425 price. We had 3.8 million volume. Okay, that means Bitcoin exchanged hands for $3.8 million worth in this little price section of this candle. Then we have the delta. Delta is defined as, actually we'll get into more delta later, but basically this is the difference of the buys and sells. Okay, this is the difference of the buys and sells. We'll get into that more later. We have the bid ask profile. The bid ask is basically dividing the volume up into how many people sold and how many people bought. So for example, at the price point of 43,500, we have 1.8 million sells and 428,000 buys. Down at the price of 43,450 in this specific place within this specific blue candle, we had 400,602 sells. Sorry about that. And we have 1.4 million buys right here. Okay. And then the last thing is imbalance. We're going to get into this more later, but basically if you see the color is different, that means there's a very large imbalance of the number of buys and sells. And these are very important, and we're going to get more into these later. And then over here in the cluster, this is basically going to give you visual representations of the textual data. Okay. So for example, if we put on volume, this is giving us the numbers of the contracts that were transacted within any given price within this candle. If we go ahead and put on volume profile, well now this is just giving us a bar graph, a volume profile that represents the numbers here. So 3.8 million obviously is going to have a larger bar graph than we would at the 2.9 million. Okay. Then we have a delta profile. Now the delta profile again is the difference between buys and sells. And so we can see here that if there's more sells than buys and is offset by negative 1.4 million, that means there's 1.4 million more sells than buys. This is then going to show us this in a profile. And then of course we have the bid ask profile, which is telling us how many sells versus buys, and it's giving us a bar graph to represent each one. So we can see that's just a visual representation of the numeric data here, and it helps when we are looking at charts zoomed out to kind of get an idea of what took place at what price point. Because if we zoom out, we can't really see those numbers anymore, but we can see, for example, that there was a lot of volume that traded right in this section of the purple candle, but there was very little volume that traded down here at this low wick. Okay, so this is very important, and we're going to be getting into how we can actually use this to help us trade later. And then if we go to the clusters, okay, first we have the profiles. Now profiles are basically bar graphs, but the clusters are going to be looking like this. Okay, the clusters are basically going to be simply just, and notice, I do want you to notice that I'm going to go ahead and put back on the open, high, close, low candles here, that each little section of the cluster represents one unit of our tick size. So each one of these is 50 ticks worth of data, and it's going to be shaded from light to dark based on how much volume was transacted. So we can see 4.3, 5.9 million volume transacted at 43750. This is much darker than the 163 volume that transacted up here at 43875. Okay, so we have the volume cluster, which is basically a visual representation of these volume numbers by color shade. Okay, And then we have the delta cluster, which is a visual representation of the delta, all right, which is buys minus sells. And we can see here that it will tell us how many more or less buys or sells there were per price per tick size, right? So, for example, right here at the price of $343,750, these 50 ticks, we can see there were 2.1 million more buys than sells, and we can see that of the total volume of 5.9, the delta, showing us that of that 5.9 total volume, 2.1 million more sells than buys. And then over here, we can see in this 50 ticks below, there are 372,000 fewer, 372,000 more sells than buys. And so negative delta means the sellers are winning, positive delta means the buyers are winning. If you don't understand what I'm talking about with the delta right now, please stay tuned. We are going to have a whole session on delta, but for now, just be aware that this exists. And then, of course, we have the ladder, the delta ladder. And this is just another way to visually present it. And I honestly don't really like the delta ladder, but it's basically splitting it up into two halves, right? It's showing you, it's taking the cluster and splitting it so that the blue and the purple is not in one cluster, but it's in two clusters individually. So it kind of like gives you a way to zoom out and really see very clearly, okay, this candle, for example, there were basically no sells here. Okay, so those are these three areas, and we're going to get into more later, especially when we get into TPO. But for now, just be aware that there are different types of visual representations of these three different types of text: volume, delta, bid ask. Now, imbalance is bid ask, but it's showing you if there's an imbalance. More on that later. And let's get back over here to these things: the volume, the trade count, the rect, all these things. Okay, so when we come back to Exocharts, we can see volume, trade count, rect, footprint, bar status or statistics, T size, CS, D bars, open interest, net long, net short, and VWAP. All these things are going to put something else on your chart. Okay, and they all provide useful data, but let's quickly just go over what they are so that when you hear people talking about them or you see people posting about these things in the Discord, you know where to find them and you know what they are. So the volume is volume. Okay, if I click that volume right here, boom, I have volume down here, just like you would have on the TradingView volume indicator. The trade count is showing you how many trades are open, longs and shorts, in any given candle. Okay, so you can put volume and trade count on at the same time to basically see of that volume how many were longs, how many were shorts. Very similar to delta. We have rect. This is telling you how many trades are getting liquidated in any given candle. When you see big bubbles of liquidations, that usually means price is going to move in the other direction, because you can see right here a whole bunch of shorts got liquidated, which injects a whole bunch of liquidity into the market, which then makes price come back down the other way. You see big purple dots of longs getting liquidated, and price comes up from there. Okay, then we have the footprint bar statistics. This is basically going to give you things like volume and delta and trade count all in a easy to read footprint bar statistic, where I can see right down here, for example, this blue candle, even if I'm not zoomed in looking at the delta within each price point, I can see that the overall candle had 2 million positive delta, and that overall candle had 6.8 million volume. Okay, very useful information. And then the T size, will tell you the trade size. So we come back over here, turn on trade size, and basically if we zoom in here, it's telling us what the actual trade size was. So people trading with more than $500,000. We have 3.9 million worth of traders opening positions with more than $500,000, and it's basically showing you what the players are that are trading. Do we have big players, whales, or do we have retail traders? And we're going to get into this more, and I'm even going to show you more tools that you can use to kind of find that information, but that's what that is. We have CS right here, and CS essentially will tell you the volume and the delta of a candle right up here in the in this area. So let me turn off the text here. We can see we have 19 million volume and 2.5 million positive delta for this candle. For this candle right here, we have 16 million volume, 191,000 positive delta. Okay. Then we come down to the D bars. This is used to show CVD. We are going to get into an entire session on just CVD, talking about CVD divergences. This stands for cumulative volume delta. When we go into delta and CVD, you will understand these things a lot more if you're unfamiliar. Then we have open interest. Open interest is basically the number of trades opening. So we can see right here, as the price is coming down, we can see open interest going up, which tells us that probably short trades are opening, or potentially even, we could see that trades are opening up. It's telling us how many people are entering into positions. If we see price moving and open interest is going down, that usually means people are getting stopped out or liquidated of positions. We have net longs and net shorts, very much so related to open interest. You can think of net longs and net shorts as the delta of open interest. This is breaking up the open interest into longs and shorts. So right here in net longs, the blue candles are showing us longs opening. The gray candles are showing us longs closing. We can basically see on this big purple candle down, we got a whole bunch of longs closing, and that's why open interest went down, because long traders were exiting their position. And then we can see right here on this big move to the downside, open interest is increasing, meaning people are opening new positions. And we can see right here that it's mostly longs opening positions more so than, shorts are opening up their positions as the open interest is increasing here. Okay, so then we have the VWAP, which is the volume weighted average price. This is a dynamic level of support or resistance, and it's basically weighted by volume. And we'll get into this more later when we talk about how to actually use this in your trading. All right, y'all. Well, this wraps up session 1 for the advanced course dealing with Exocharts and advanced technical analysis, because we're going to go into more than just Exocharts. And I will see y'all in the next session. Peace.